Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Investor Army podcast. Today we have an absolutely amazing guest. He's an individual who I look up to and respect. Personally, I credit a lot of changing the way I look at the business. Now, not only is he an author, a speaker, he's also a very talented real estate investor. He's up there in the Richmond market doing a ton of renovations on properties right now, and we're going to be talking about rehabbing houses today. Let me introduce you to Jim Ingersoll.
Hey, Connor. Great to be with you today and hanging out. I love talking to you, so thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Jim, for coming. I know you're a busy guy, and I know you're flipping a ton of houses up there. And I just kind of wanted everybody to kind of hear what you have to say, because right now deals are tough to find. I know you used to run a massive wholesale company, so you're good at generating leads. But what does generating leads do? It translates into deals, it translates into bigger profits, and that's what we're talking about today, how to make more money on each house. Instead of wholesaling these houses, you transition into a rehabber, right? And you do pretty much everything in the business, but you're focused on rehabbing right now. Can you tell people why you're focused mainly on rehabbing at the moment?
Well, I think given the market conditions and the fact that inventories are low and buyers are hot, it's really a great time to flip.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to focus there and generate cash. I think it's the right market condition, and the longer you're in this, you got to watch the market cycles, and that's where I see the best fit right now.
Yeah. So are you consistently, do you have like a sales process that you do where you're, because like consistently down here, our market's so hot right now that we're able to sell houses without listing them with an agent. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people are flat listing them, but I don't even want to list it at all because I can just find buyers on my own. Or is that what y'all are doing up there? I know you're probably getting a ton of offers or.
I do like a flat listing as well. Of course, if some of your listeners are realtors, then they don't have to worry about that. They'll just list it themselves. But no, I'll do like a flat listing. Sometimes we pre-sell. I've been pre-selling some this month.
Yeah.
And that's very easy to do as well right now. But I mean, for instance, we listed one last night and we've received 3 offers. All 3 offers were full price or above. One of them was basically cash as is. The other 2, one of them had an escalation clause in it. So I could have sold that same house 3 times and been very happy.
Okay. Can you kind of explain to everybody what an escalation clause is? Because I know that may kind of go over a lot of their
Well, as markets heat up, this would happen before the last bubble. As more and more buyers are out there and people are trying to get these houses, they'll actually build an escalation clause into their offer to you. So what it'll say is, the one I received last night basically said, I will give you $1,500 or $2,500, whatever it was, over the other highest price.
Okay.
That's a way somebody can leapfrog over multiple offers.
Yeah. Okay. So are y'all seeing, like as far as, because we're consistently selling above market value, are you having trouble getting the appraisals, or basically if you can sell it, they're kind of appraising it for whatever right now, or what are you seeing your banks kind of responding to an appraisal situation up there?
I haven't run into that this year. I ran into that once last year. And it sucks when it happens. But this year, so far, so good. Everything's rolling along really good for the last 6 or 8 months. But prices are going up. But, you're in Dallas. You're in one of the fastest appreciating markets in the whole country. So I could see that being a bigger deal if you're in a fast appreciating market like that.
Yeah, because I'm a big believer on, like, life pays whatever price you ask of it. So, like, when a lot of people will run the comps. And so say you have 4 comps there at $100 a square foot, 101, 99, and 100. Well, you're going to go ahead and price your property right there at 101. But if the appraiser is going to appraise it and you did a good job, go ahead and put it above the comps, right? Because if it's going to get appraised, you're going to sell it, and markets don't go up unless, people are pushing the market. And so same thing with our rental properties. They're filling so fast right now. If everything is running at 1,000, we're putting them up at 1,150, and we're getting it pretty much every time, right? So if you just ask for it, especially when there's a lot of demand, you're going to get it most likely. And I see that a lot of people are just losing a lot of value when they're not just maximizing on the same deals that they have.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And that's true being an entrepreneur in general. I mean, you've got to be willing to ask for what you want. If you're not getting what you want out of life, it's because you aren't asking in all aspects of your entire life. But it's definitely true with real estate for sure. Yeah. And I think you make a great point there on the comps.
Okay. And so a lot of people constantly ask me when they're talking about rehabs, so you have the 2 different ways. You can GC it yourself, or you can pay a little bit extra money to GC it, have someone come in and do the project. just kind of hand them the keys and say, give me the house when it's done. What is it that you're doing with your own business model? Because I know you're doing like 50 or something houses here in a short time period or something, a large number of rehabs. So you got to have some type of system in place, and it's probably tough for you to handle that on your own, right?
Yeah, we use crews. We sub everything out ourselves, and I've got a project manager that helps tremendously. So he's like an on-the-job superintendent type thing, and he helps, but we do sub everything out. So I do not use general contractors. I pay for labor only with my contractors, and I supply the materials, they supply the labor, and we get things done. There's three things you want: speed, quality, and cost. Quality is a given. Speed's very, very important right now if you're going to try to hit it while the market's really hot.
Now, as far as protecting yourself on these transactions, how are you kind of doing the funding? Because I know a lot of people get caught in trouble because they put half the money up front, or they go buy all the materials up front, and not always is this on the first deal that they've done with someone. A lot of times I see this happening where they've used the same contractors 3 or 4 times, they get comfortable with them, and then they go put up all the money and just say, because it's time and energy that they spend trying to go back and forth and handle all the different calls to the surplus store, whatever they're doing, so they go ahead and buy $15,000 worth of materials, and they pay them all the money up front, half the project, and then they disappear on them. So how are you kind of paying your contractors, and are you giving them money up front, or are you doing it week to week? Or
we do a bit of a deposit up front, but I don't think it's a good idea to do a big deposit up front at all. I give you an example of a rehabber several years ago that Cheryl and I knew that did that. They gave the contractor 50% up front. Guess what? The contractor took off and went across the country with 50% of their money up front. That was labor and materials, and it was a ton of money. And so that was a really bad situation. And you've got to really vet your contractors carefully. You've got to know what kind of licensure they have, what kind of insurance they've got. It's a good idea to use a contractor agreement. And for all of your listeners today, if you want all of that in one package, I'll give it to you right now. It's bigmoneyinvestor.com/free gift. And you'll get that. I'll give you a contractor agreement, an indemnification agreement, all of the license, and all of the insurance information for your listeners, since we're talking about it right now. It's very, very important to get all of that stuff straight up front and build your team out the right way.
Okay, you want to give them that address one more time so they're probably driving around?
bigmoneyinvestor.com/free gift.
Guys, I recommend going over there. Jim, he's been around for a long time. He's done a ton of deals, and if he says it's good for you, I definitely support it as well. So as you're kind of dealing with these contractors, and one of the big problems we've had, which you're probably not dealing with as much because you said you're dealing with subcontractors, but I know you've used GCs in the past. A lot of people are dealing with issues where their GC is not paying their subcontractors, and they're coming back and having subcontractors say, well, you own the property, I did the work, if you don't pay me.
One of the other documents I give everybody in that documentation package is a lien release waiver. And you got to think through all that stuff. You're right. There's a lot of moving parts. If you happen to be using a hard money lender, they may require you to use a lien release waiver. But last thing you want is to pay a contractor and then he not pay his subs.
Right.
Somebody will come back and they will vandalize your site. They'll steal something, or they'll put a lien on your house later on. And that's a bad surprise at closing.
Yeah. Like something I moved to this year is on the payment side of things. I'm not letting anybody work for me unless they have a merchant account or I know them really well and they're okay, because I just got to where I was doing so many at a time, and then I'm getting guys saying, I need to be paid right now, and I can't just drop everything to drive across town and pay someone $200, right? So do you have a payment system? You probably have it where they come down to your office or something like that. Or...
Yeah, the way I recommend it is if you're able to set up and do it this way, is to have them drop off invoices on a particular day of the week, say Tuesday.
Yeah.
Drop off an invoice by Tuesday, come back and pick up your check on Thursday. That way you have time to get to the site, check it out, verify the work's done, and you won't have any surprises. What really sucks as a rehabber if your contractors start thinking you're an ATM machine, just like you said. Contractors, they have cash flow problems. They have bad habits. They have a lot of issues sometimes, right? Yeah. So they get a little short on cash, and they think they can just call you or text you, and you're going to show up and magically write them a check.
Yeah.
I tell my contractors I'm not an ATM machine. You don't just call me and I show up with a check.
Yeah, and it's tough for someone who, Jim's a really good guy, and a lot of people in this business are good people. And what happens is they don't want to pay, or like their contractor gets in a situation where they need the money, and they ask, to pay them up front. They may have done 2/3 of the job, and you go ahead and pay them. But the problem is once you pay them that last check, they're not coming back to the job, or they may come back, but there's a couple of days in between, and it's just, you just can't, in my own opinion, you can't pay these contractors, even if you like them and you're trying to help them out. It's going to cause you a big headache if you pay them up in full until it's done.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
You got to really think through how you're going to run this as a business. And flipping houses, by the way, is a business, and so is rehabbing rentals. Either way, you're rehabbing. But it is a business, and you got to really think it through that way. And how do you want to run your business? Do you want your subs and your contractors to control you, or do you want to control your business?
Yeah, because they can get out of control quickly. That's for sure.
Okay. So you got to think through things like change orders as well, Connor. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you don't always know what's below the floor or in a crawl space or in a wall or in an attic. And you got to think through how you're going to handle that.
And that's a great point that you brought that up, because this is something that we've been personally dealing with for the past year. And let me kind of tell you kind of what I've done to kind of avoid this. So now when I go into a contract with an individual, I let them know ahead of time. So if y'all are listening right now, change order is where they come back and hit you with basically a change in whether it's materials or cost of the project or whatever it is. And so say you're having 3 or 4 contractors come out to give you a bid, and you had 2 or 3 come out and they all said, we'll do it for $20,000 altogether. Well, that 4th individual, he wants to get the job. So he may tell you he can do it for $17,000, but in his mind, he may be knowing that he's going to try to sneak in change orders on you later and make it $23,000 or $24,000. He's just trying to get in contract, into the deal, foot in the door, and then make those costs up later and create more back-end profit for him. So what I tell them, I say, look, I don't do change orders. Now, I mean, if it's a legitimate change order, I go ahead and pay it. But I say I don't do change orders. I let them know up front. If it is a change order that shouldn't have been, I'm going to hire a different company to come in and do that change order. So the work's still going to get done. You're just not going to do it. So this prevents them from trying to play any games on me, because this makes them give their best and honest offer, knowing that they're not going to get that work anyway. So it keeps them from kind of playing games.
No, and I think that's a great way to do it. I agree. But things do come up. I mean, we thought we were going to repair a deck a couple weeks ago, and we had to take the whole thing off the house. You may get into a crawl space and find mold on your floor joists, or you might have to sister some joists you didn't know, or you got termite damage in a wall. You run into mold. You run into issues. There's a lot of variables when you're flipping houses. It's not like it is on TV, is it, Connor?
No, it's exactly like it, Jim. It's reality TV. That means it's real, right? So can you tell me something? How do they flip a house? How do they buy a house for $150, put $50 in it, sell it for $250, and make $50,000? How's that even possible?
Exactly right.
Yeah, well, I guess it's people believe it, but
hey, they call it flip or flop for a reason. To me, a lot of them look like flops.
Yeah, it's amazing some of the stuff I see on there, but yeah, guys, if it's a legitimate change order, do what's best. Be an honest individual. Go ahead and pay it. Don't fight them on it. Go ahead and do it. But if it's something that you can tell they're playing games with you on, that they kind of just try to get their foot in the door, go ahead and kind of stand your ground there on that. Now, I know we're talking a little bit about rental properties and the market changing. So your kind of strategy right now is you're flipping houses to make big checks to buy rental properties and pay them off free and clear, right? That's kind of what you're doing. That's
a good strategy, I think.
Yeah. So you're not leveraging them through the banks, or you have them leveraged right now and you're just trying to pay them off, or yeah.
I think it's always good to work on long-term cash flow in your long-term plan.
Yeah. So the cash flow is what's going to set you free. Jim likes to travel. He's all around the country all the time. That's what allows him to kind of go out there and do that and live the lifestyle that a lot of y'all are looking to do as a real estate investor, which we all kind of got into the business in the first place. But okay. A lot of people want to know kind of like they're trying to figure out what materials go in the house, what color scheme, what type of cabinets, kind of what's working up in your market, and how do you go about picking your, are you going about, picking by price, or are you going by picking it by design, or how do you kind of go about the designs that you're pulling for your properties at the moment?
Well, I'm pretty lucky that my wife Cheryl does a lot of that. So she takes care of all the selections. And so she'll pick out the lighting and the faucets and all that finished stuff. She does it much better than I do. As far as like color, we use a lot of Repose Gray. It's a Sherwin-Williams color, and we'll do it all the way through the house. It's really a nice color. Works very, very well. But, lighting and things, the trends change.
Yeah.
So 7 or 8 years ago, bronze was in, and then it was out, and brushed nickel was in. Now bronze is coming back in. And now chrome is coming in, and this new one, polished chrome. So there's like the trends change, and you just sort of got to be aware of that and adjust accordingly. That's why, like right now, Lowe's and Home Depot have tons and tons of lighting on sale. I think it's because they're trying to dump their inventory of like brushed nickel lights. So all that stuff sort of changes, and you just got to change with it. Flooring, all that stuff, just kind of stay on top of it as best you can. But for me, it's a lot easier because Cheryl is really good with design, much better than me. She's got a much better eye for color than I do. Yeah.
So are you going all out? Are you doing all the bells and whistles, granite, hardwood floors, or are you just kind of doing a light
Depends
level
on the house. I mean, sometimes we'll paint the cabinets and put granite on top.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe 1 or 2 years ago, we ripped the cabinets out.
Kind of what? What's the price point that in your market that you're kind of going from where you're doing just a normal rent-ready, shower liners as compared to kind of where you step it up? Now you're doing a nice tile, nicer floors, granite in there. Where do you kind of draw the line as far as?
I mean, we've been doing rehabs that retail between $300,000 and $400,000, and those you have to put better upgrades in.
Yeah.
If I'm in the 100 to 175 range, you can downgrade a lot more.
Yeah.
Just, as an example, say a tub or a shower, you might do a 3-piece surround if you're under 200 or 250, but if you're over 300, you might need to do ceramic in it.
Yeah. So, we're talking about reality TV, kind of what's realistic for a new investor kind of looking at even, and you have your systems in place, been doing this a long time, kind of give them a realistic expectation as far as what profits you're looking to make and the time frame and kind of the whole process. Because a lot of people tell me, well, I'm going to flip this house in a month and be in and out of it in 6 weeks. And I'm just like, that's not how it goes. And they have expectations that a lot of these wholesale properties are sending out maybe $20,000 repair, but how often are we spending $20,000 on full rehab? It doesn't happen, right? So
I agree. It costs whatever you think it's going to cost. Just add another 25 or 30% on top, and then as far as the timeline, if you're pretty good at this and you've done some, it may take you say 4 months from the day you buy it till the day you close. That's a long paycheck. If you get lucky and you get through there fast and you don't have FHA financing on the sale, you can do it faster. If you sell it and then you get near the end of closing and it falls through and you got to sell it again, because that happens too, you could end up at 5 or 5.5 months pretty easily. You could be partway through your rehab and then get stopped for a stop work order and you got to go pull permits. That could add another month onto your renovation and add $5,000 or $6,000 onto your costs. So there's a lot of things that new flippers need to be careful of. It does not work like it does on TV. You've also got to be careful about rehabbing your funding, because if you're paying hard money lenders, it's really expensive. I was talking to a guy this morning, Connor, a little younger than you. I think he's 25, and he was talking about his first flip, and I think he made $15,000 on it, but he said he was frustrated because his hard money lender made $5,000 and he didn't do any work.
Yeah.
So you got to watch your funding, because that's a big piece of your expenses.
Well, also keeping a reserve, because a lot of people, they kind of start feeling invincible that, they had a few good deals go well, and then they kind of get over leveraged and they don't keep a reserve. And quickly, I've got one right now that's, man, we've had some major issues. It's probably $20,000 above what we budgeted. And they can run out of control on you real quick. And if you don't have that cash and you didn't borrow that much money, you wonder how some of these investors in your market as a wholesaler call you and they're like, I just have to sell it right now. And you walk in, that house is 2/3 finished. Well, that's kind of what happened. They didn't borrow enough money, or they couldn't borrow enough money. They thought they were going to be able to finish with the extra capital that they had. Then they ran out, and now they're in a position where they're literally stuck and they're just trying to get out of it.
I've got a lead on one just like that right now. So this guy was he was doing the REO flips for like Fannie Mae and stuff. And he was doing pretty well doing that. So he started saving his money, and then he went out and bought his own flip. And he's about 2/3 through it and doesn't have money to finish. And he's a pretty desperate seller at this point. He bought the house, without any loans. And he was going to self-fund the whole thing and ran short.
Yeah. So
that's called a motivated seller.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. Like, if you've done enough houses, you know what it's like to be a motivated seller, and it's not fun. So now you kind of understand why people just fire sale their house, because every now and then you get in a spot where you're just like, most of them seem to go okay, but every maybe 7th or 8th one, for me personally, I'm like, man, this one is I just want it done and gone, and I just want to get it out of my life.
You got that right. It does happen. That's the reality, not the TV version.
Why didn't you tell me this, Jim, before I got in? Go ahead and tell everybody, give them a good positive story. Give them a good example of one of your good rehabs that kind of give them some optimism and hope for them getting the business and going out there, give them some motivation to go work hard and get that next deal.
I mean, I won't give you an exact house, I guess, because we do a lot of this, but I mean, it is a great way in today's market to go out there and create a lot of cash. So if you've got debt or student loan debt, or you're just trying to create some capital for the future, flipping is a great way to go. You just got to be careful about buying the right house for the right price in the right location, getting all your numbers right, building a team, and getting through it. I also think it's hard to flip houses on like a part-time limited basis. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things to keep track of, and you got to sort of be all in.
Yeah, and guys, like, I recommend, and so there's probably someone like Jim in your area that I know you have a lot of young guys and other investors that come to you to partner with you on one, to have you kind of show them, because, man, like the first one that we did, you don't realize how many costs are in there that you didn't, plan for. And so you may want to partner with someone, at least on one, that's experienced, and give up some of that profit and get a real life learning experience in the field before you just kind of jump into one. Because if you get into one and you lose 15, 20 grand on your first one, it's going to put a sour taste in your mouth. You're going to say, this isn't what I thought it was, and you're going to probably give up right then. So, make sure you have someone kind of standing in your corner.
I think that's a great idea, and you've got to be careful. Here's what you do most when you're flipping and rehabbing. You write checks and you swipe your credit card.
Yes.
It's a capital intensive business.
It's like
the most frequent thing I do is pay contractors and pay Lowe's and pay my material suppliers. Well, you know it because you've done it, Connor. You're always spending money.
Well, I think you'll like this example. I say it's a high level slot machine that it's like, when you go to the casino and you're hitting that slot machine and your balance is going down, 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 down. Then you hit the bonus and it goes like straight back up. That's what flipping a house is like. You write a ton of checks and it's just going down. Your account's going down and down and down. And then you sell that house and you get that one big check and it just all of a sudden pays for all your costs, hopefully, and then some more. But that's why you got to run your numbers right, because you got to make sure that you got to make sure
it's like day trading houses. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I helped a guy, a couple, and they bought this house really creatively and used self-directed IRAs and all this stuff, Connor. And we walked all the way through it, and he showed me his checking account from the day before had zero, like no money in it. And then when he got the profit from the flip, he actually made over $100,000 on the flip up near Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And he's like, now look at this. I went from zero to 100,000 in one day. but that is not normal.
I mean, it happens. I mean, I know a few people this year that pulled a 6-figure flip, and man, like they'll change your life. Literally, one deal will change your life. And at least as you're starting your business, there's a lot of weight of the world on your shoulders, and you're feeling this anxiousness to get those deals going. But one deal can buy you that patience, right? It can get you to a position where you can kind of slow down and then really focus on your business, and you're not so kind of chaotically running around town just in desperation. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle when they first start, is that they need to learn how to be patient, but aggressively patient in a way. And but yeah, just as long as one deal could literally come in like that, and that probably literally changed that guy's life, right?
Sure did.
Yeah. So that's why this business is a great business. Now, I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a bunch of houses you're flipping. Go ahead and let everybody know one good bit of advice that you give some of these new investors starting out, something that you that they could avoid that you ran into, or something that you could just kind of give them a little bit of guidance on, and hopefully some people out here take Jim's advice and go out there and actually.
I think you hit a lot of them with the contractors this morning.
Yeah.
I guess my only piece of advice would be to rehab your funding before you rehab the house. I mean, really drill through your numbers. If the only way you can get in with us is with a hard money lender, just realize you're going to pay them a really big chunk of your profit.
Yeah.
Make it a learning experience. But you've really got to dig through your numbers, make sure they're right, and know exactly how you're going to finance all the way through the job. Don't run short on cash is a killer. It will keep you up at night. So make sure you got all your funding straight.
Okay. Can you, one last thing. So the difference between, I know you talk about a lot of joint ventures and versus debt financing. And so are you using a lot of hard money lenders? Or are you using private lenders? Or are you doing joint ventures? Where are you funding and how?
I've used a hard money lender in many, many years.
Yeah.
I will never plan to use a hard money lender. They're hard for a reason. It isn't the interest that kills you, it's the points. I had Wendy Sweet on my podcast, Connor. We talked about it because Wendy's a hard money lender.
Yeah.
She's like, I make all my money on points. I'm like, I know you do, Wendy. It's a lot.
Yeah, in certain markets, they make more than others. Like what they're charging for up in y'all's area, you couldn't get that down here. I don't know if it's because there's a lot more lenders down here or what, but the lender is a good position to be in. Like the borrower is beholden to the lender, right? So if you guys can get, like I know a lot of rehabbers that did really well, and I'm surprised you may be thinking about this in the future, but I know a lot of them that transitioned because they got really good at raising money, and then they were like, well, let me just become a hard money lender, and they kind of made that transition. Have you saw that in your future, or creating like a fund or anything like that yourself, or?
I've thought about it. Yeah, I mean, I know Jillian Sidoti really well. Her and I have talked about it, but no, I don't think I need to. I think I'm on a good path here, so I feel good. But that is a great way to go for some people. Also, if you're just flipping or building a rental portfolio or whatever, sometimes it does make sense to create a fund.
Yeah. Okay, Jim. Well, I'm gonna let you get back to what you're doing, and I appreciate you coming on. And hopefully, I see you soon. I don't know where we're going to be next. I think maybe in Alaska, right? Or maybe
sounds good to me. I can't wait.
All right, Jim. Thanks for coming on.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good day.